Okay, I need to do a little bit of vocal exercises. Okay, that's better. Okay, good. I'm happy with this. Let's see if I can keep this up. Anyways, hello and welcome back to Transcending Humanity. I'm Vanessa, aka Vanessa, and I am joined today by two people I've been very excited to have on the podcast. I've had Landon here before, but Alex is new. Just a reminder, the views and the opinions of the people you see on your screen or hearing in your ears are their own and not their respective employers if they're employed. And send us money on Patreon and buy shit from the store. And thank you to the current patrons. So let's jump into it. This is my Gen Z and apparently younger millennial episode. You all probably remember Landon. He was on episode 50, and also he was on episode 25, and he really laid out the kind of the generational divide between the different generations and how everyone needs to stop fucking relying on Gen Z to fix all the problems and actually do it themselves. So I asked him to come back, and I also asked Alex to join me. And she's another creator that I've been following for a while, and I absolutely love her shit. And I sent her a message, and she said yes. So this is like a dream for me. So without further ado, I'm going to let you two introduce yourselves, say a little bit, yada, yada, yada. Ladies first.
I don't want to jump in. All right. I'll go first. I can do it. My name's Alex.
Baptism by fire.
Baptism by fire. Yeah, just throw me to the wolves. We got this. My name's Alex. I do political content on TikTok and Instagram. Really, especially trying to engage those younger generations with politics, especially social justice issues. So LGBTQ rights, abortion rights, income inequality, those kinds of things. Yeah, that's me.
Thank you. Landon.
Hello. I am not part Chow. I just had cotton candy. That's why my tongue is dark. I am a drag queen on Instagram and TikTok and all the social medias, except X because Elon sucks. I do content that is political, but really shouldn't be, but it was made political.
Yeah. It's honestly pretty innocent stuff, too.
It is.
Like, how dare you read children's stories?
I know.
It's so scandalous.
One fish, two fish, red fish, indoctrination fish.
Ooh, I like that.
That's straight out of the DNC right there.
I know, right? I'm going to take a picture of this just for socials because this is exciting. Okay. So
I'm never sure because my eye line is all over the place.
I know.
Because when I'm looking at you, I'm looking off to the side. And when I'm looking at myself, it looks like I'm looking at you. And that's just weird.
I know. I have to keep training myself to look like I'm looking into the camera right now. So, but this is me looking at Alex.
I'm just gonna stare at the little green dot.
Stare at the little green dot.
It's hard, you know. Like I've even seen like these cameras that like they'll stick down in front of the screen for you. Well, my hands look giant, you know. Dysphoria, you know. I just wanted to start up a conversation about what kind of day-to-day bullshit do you two, as younger Americans that are trying to make a impact in this world or trying to just survive in this world, what are just the day-to-day bullshit stuff that just drives you nuts and you want to just get it out there and call people out for it? So go.
Apartment hunting.
Oh my God.
That is such a big one. Okay, so I'm trying to move from Texas to Los Angeles. And when you don't have a job in a place, it's very difficult because, you know, they require a job to get an apartment. But almost every single job requires you to live there currently to even be considered. And so it's this catch-22 snake just devouring itself over and over. And I have a decent amount of savings because I've just squirreled away everything I've ever received for birthdays or whatever. And I just have it all in a little bank account.
Just smart.
And so, yeah. So when I figured out I would qualify to be the cosigner if somebody with horrible credit and no savings and no job wanted this apartment. I could get that apartment for them, but I cannot qualify to get that apartment for myself. And that was just like, what is wrong with this system?
I'd say it's broken.
It is so broken.
Man, that
And
gets me
then when
mad
you,
about credit scores in general. It's just
oh
a
yeah,
joke number.
yeah.
It doesn't even matter.
It
Like,
is.
Mhm.
I made my younger brother like an authorized user on one of my credit cards so he would have a good credit score. So he's got like
hmm
an 800 now because I'm anal about money, and like he did
Yeah.
nothing. He's done nothing. It's just a joke. He knows somebody with good credit and now he can get like a
Mhm.
loan
Mhm.
where someone who maybe had like medical debt can't.
Yeah.
That entire system, the credit score thing is so dumb. Like, I declared bankruptcy a couple years ago, but then I changed my name right after, which kind of like put a hiccup in my credit score, and it went way up. Like 6
Oh.
months after I declared bankruptcy, my credit score was in the 700s, which was kind of wild. And it never really caught up, even though my name finally got caught up on it. But so, like right now, if I go on Credit Karma, it says like 712 or something like that. And I just went and bought a car, and when they pull up my actual credit, not the credit that we get to see, it was like 630, which is still enough to get a loan. But how the fuck are we supposed to know anything
No,
at that
yeah.
point?
Yeah.
And the thing with like the apartment hunting is I was complaining to some people, and I have some friends in Los Angeles who are native Angelinos, and one of them is a man in his 50s and one of them is a woman in her late 40s, and they were giving me this advice, and it's like, that advice is so beyond worthless. Like, what
Mhm.
you're telling me to do is beyond worthless. And one of them told me to look in this area because, oh yeah, they keep the rent low so artists can live there. Like, that's been the whole thing. That's the MO. And they went, and it's a beautiful area because the artists keep it nice and keep it pretty. And I looked it up, and I was saying, a 200 square foot studio with a shared bathroom is $3,000 a month. That is now the yuppie place to live because artists made it beautiful and corporate landlords bought it up. And it was like, this place that had been around since Hollywood was created, where artists could live affordably with the knowledge that artists will keep the area safe and nice, went out the window with corporate landlords.
I mean, the entire
That is
housing
so
market
fucked.
went out the window with
Yeah.
corporate landlords. I was trying to
Oh,
explain to
yeah.
my
It did.
grandparents like a couple weeks ago about why I'm renting and not buying a house, and just like, it's ridiculous. You have to have a ridiculous amount of money saved up for a down payment. Interest rates are out of astronomical right now, so people that are locked into low rates aren't selling, so there's a housing shortage and all these things, not even taking into account like inflation since their generation. And they're just like, oh, you just need to save more, you just need to save more. Like,
How?
It's
okay,
the
grandma.
avocado toast.
Yeah. It's
Too much
impossible to
avocado
save.
toast, too many
Mhm.
lattes.
I used to be a homeowner, and when my ex was pregnant with our son, I moved in with her. So I sold my house like 2 months before the housing like exploded. So like if I had waited 2 months, I could have gotten another like 60 grand for my house. And now it's just so unavoidable, affordable. I lucked out. The place I'm in now, I'm renting for $800 a month, an entire house.
Oh,
And
wow.
Landon's head just exploded. And it belongs to one of my photography clients. It's the house that she grew up in. And her mother-in-law was living here, but her mother-in-law moved, and she didn't want to sell the house. She knew I was looking for it. She's like, if you would pay me the same rent that she was paying, you can live there. I'm like, fuck yeah. So, but that is so rare.
Yeah.
And like any place else around here would be starting at like 1,500 if they let me live there because I have a German Shepherd.
Yeah.
And doggy racism's a thing. So
Well, that's like a whole other thing too. Like, it's so normalized now for us. Like, living with your parents is like cool. Like, oh yeah,
Mhm.
you're putting aside that bag. Like, the friends that are
Mhm.
able to live at home, we're jealous of, where that used to be a stereotype. Like, I've been talking to a dude on Tinder that's living with his parents. I'm like, yeah, dude, get that bag. Like, that would have been a
Yeah, no
red
shit.
flag for my parents' generation. And now it's just like,
Mhm.
nice, so you have savings. Cool. Like,
That's definitely a big difference between the divide, because I imagine your parents are Gen X for both of you.
mine are
Okay.
boomers. Yeah.
They're boomers? Okay.
Yeah.
Mine are older boomers. And like living at home when I was growing up, like there's so many things that are different. Like for me in high school, every time someone hit 15 and a half, that's when you like ran out and started your driver's license thing.
Mm-hmm.
And now, from what I understand, kids just don't really care that much about
Yeah.
driving. My local partner, her kids just, they couldn't give a flying fuck about driving. And I almost think that a lot of it is, I think kids and their parents, it's more of a general rule than it was when I was growing up, have a little bit more of a connection and might actually be able to tolerate sometimes living. I could not imagine living with my parents. But I mean, that's just a very blanket statement. But how do you two feel about all that?
I mean, I also could not live with my parents, but I know in my case and for like a lot of my friends, we started driving late just because driver's training is not something that's free anymore. Like we're seeing all these little things start to add up of things that older generations took for granted. Like driver's training was just part of high school. That was included in public education. It's not free anymore. It's several $100s. And for a lot of middle-class families living paycheck to paycheck, they can't afford it. I had to wait until I was 18 and able to just like go to the Secretary of State and get a permit and like have friends teach me how to drive because like it was just not an affordable thing. But living with my parents, that's a no for me, dog. Again, they boomers.
Fucking boomers.
What about you, Landon? How do you feel?
Oh, well, I live with my mother. I could not have lived with my father. But it's with the driving thing, especially, there was this man on TikTok, and he wasn't even that old. He was probably like 55, 56. And he was talking about how lazy younger generations are and how, younger generations don't even want to get a driver's license because they're all narcissistic and their lives are online and blah, blah, blah. The regurgitated talking points we're also used to hearing. And he said this phrase where he got a car. He got his first job. His parents paid for half of his first car. He paid for the other half. And then he was responsible with his part-time after-school job all day Saturday, Sunday off to pay for his gas and car insurance. And I replied to this man to go, all right, a couple things. Number one, there are no affordable used cars anymore. And a couple years ago, when Gen Z actually realized, wait a minute, we can start buying luxury cars from, the 90s and early 2000s for not that much money because people who are looking for luxury cars are not going to touch these, and people who are looking for a used car won't even think to go, oh, do I want a Bentley? Do I want a Cadillac? Do I want, this, that, whatever? And so it was, these cars aren't that expensive, and Gen Z was buying them. And how did boomers respond? They started buying those cars to hold as investments. And, when boomers and Gen X was coming up, it was this big push. Like there was a media campaign for like Silent Generation and Greatest Generation of, if you're looking to trade in your car, think about selling it to a young person for trade-in value. Like that was a campaign of don't let the dealership get the money. The dealership will pay you like 1/10 of what the car's worth. So sell it to a young person for 1/10 of what the car's worth and smoke Marlboro cigarettes. And it was that was one of those things of, so there are no affordable used cars, but even if there were, just paying for gas and insurance. And I pointed out that part-time job you had, and he like told me where, like what the job was doing. And I went, okay, so that would pay absolute minimum wage, and in your state that is like $7.50 an hour. And I went, for a 16-year-old's insurance, and the gas for a part-time job, they would need to be making at least $40 an hour to pay for just that.
Mm-hmm.
And he was arguing, and he was being belligerent. And I will say, when I told him to crunch the numbers, he did come back and go, okay.
Yeah, the numbers don't
Yeah.
lie. Like, my insurance is dirt cheap because, again, I'm old, but still, my car payment's like $405 for a 2015 car, and then car insurance is like $80, and then gas. Everything together. Like, let's just do a quick thing here. Like, the average pay around me is about $12 an hour. So, say $700 divided by 12. It's 58 hours of work just to pay for the car, and that doesn't even account for taxes either. So, and so how is anyone supposed to keep up with that? Because then they also have rent and
Mhm.
food, and so living at home just makes sense. As much as that can suck. So, or you get a nice little. You also hear of a lot of like communes starting up. Just a bunch of people living together just to
Mhm.
survive. But that also has to get annoying too. Because what if one of them doesn't shower or something? And
Let's just start
cishet
a
guys
cult.
don't wash their ass. And
Well, I think definitely
yeah,
cost of living is like the biggest divide, and it's so hard to explain to people because, like Landon was saying, you really have to break the numbers down of just like, okay, this is how that wage would equate out today because of the, inflation rate and everything. Because these people hear something like, oh, wow, you're making $12 an hour, and they're really like
Mhm.
not doing the mental processing of how far that doesn't go
mm-hmm,
now, combined with the fact that like across the board, even not low wage earners, but wages have stagnated since the 70s. Like we're not
yeah,
seeing wages go up. So they're used to like if they're making $40 an hour, they feel really good about themselves. They should be making like $80 an hour and realizing like, oh hey, you are also getting screwed can be a hard thing to accept because you're like, especially when you're older, it's like I worked so hard for all the things I have, and you probably did. And to realize like, oh, I'm getting screwed, and the younger generations have it even worse. I think it's an easier knee-jerk reaction to have to just like call us lazy.
Mhm.
the system is fucked. Absolutely fucked. My first job paid is at SeaWorld in Ohio, if you can believe that Ohio had a SeaWorld. I blow
Yeah,
people's minds
what?
every time I say that.
Ohio
Yeah,
had a SeaWorld. I'm
we
like,
had a SeaWorld, and it was $4.25 an hour, but everything was cheap back then.
Mhm.
So, like, I remember filling up my car for 68 cents a gallon in, I think, 2000.
Yeah.
And so, everything is, no one can catch up, and it's the absolute worst. Let's pivot to the whole gun bullshit. Because I
Mhm.
imagine you both were in school during, with the constant fear of shootings.
Mhm.
What crosses your mind when you hear all of these politicians and NRA, I almost said NAR, National Association of Realtors, but really about the same thing, if you think about it. But like, when they so clearly value guns over the lives of children, with gun violence being the number one cause of death for kids in this country, which is a very uniquely American problem. And they keep saying it's not the guns, it's the people. Well, the guns do fucking help, because if you notice, it's the same kind of gun that tends to be used with a lot of these shootings. So what kind of frustrations do you two feel with all that?
I think for me, it's the disconnect between like the actual legislation that is being proposed and then what is being told to conservative voters and conservative groups and gun owners. Like they paint it as the libs are coming for your guns. No one's coming for your guns. Like we're proposing like actual proposals like universal background checks, red flag laws, safe storage laws. These are all things that when you pitch them individually to the public, there's overwhelming support because it's like, yeah, people should have to pass a background check
Common
to own a
sense.
firearm. Exactly. It's
Yeah.
common sense legislation. I mean, things like banning assault rifles outright, that usually gets a bit more pushback. But then you start like explaining in depth there too. It's like the government's not going to bang on your door and take your guns. There would be buyback programs to make sure you're fairly compensated for property that you paid into. Like most people are like, okay, yeah, that's a lot more reasonable, but there's a lot of just outright propaganda and almost cultish behavior too, like the congressman wearing
Really
like
is.
AR-15 pins
Mhm.
after a shooting. Can you imagine if one of the Democrats did that
Yeah.
after Trump got shot? Like there'd be outrage.
Oh,
I
yeah.
know.
Yeah. So much performative outrage would have happened. I always say that children are in schools are the soldiers dying on the front lines for Republicans' stupid war so they can continue to own their guns and
There's a
own the
fucking quote.
libs.
It's flat out true. And as Alex said, they're not coming for your guns. Owning a gun is an American thing. A lot of liberals own guns. There's a lot of trans people that own guns, mainly to protect themselves from the asshole conservatives with guns.
Well, there's the saying, you go far enough left, you get the guns back.
Exactly. I love that. And it's true. But I honestly don't understand why the average citizen needs something like an AR-15. And, everyone's like, oh, it's not an assault rifle. No, it is. A citizen does not need that.
It's
And
literally designed to kill as many people as quickly and efficiently as possible. It's an assault rifle.
It's a bunch of just scared white people that are buying them so they can mow down the black people. And that's what it boils down to in the end.
And
Everything
I mean,
boils down to racism
I've shot one. It's fun. Like I've got a gun bro friend that I've been trying to convert. He's like left on everything else except like don't touch my guns. I've shot one. It's fun. Like I get the appeal. Like there's some monkey part of my brain that's just like I want to make the boom boom big. But like that is not enough to justify people actually dying. Like I think really it's just like a matter of like outreach and education, because like I said, most people do support like common sense gun laws. They've just been spun in a way that the 2A cultists go rabid about.
There's way too much money involved. So
yeah.
I find it fascinating how, I don't remember what year it was, but the NRA used to be like this very common sense group that was pushing for like gun legislation, and there was dissent in the group and the crazies took over. And I think at one point the NRA like had this view that having a gun should be like having a driver's license, where you need to get a gun license. And, after a certain age or a certain number of years of you having the license, you need to come in and completely have everything reviewed. Like with when you have a driver's license, there's at a certain point where you've had it enough years, you do need to actually come into the DMV and get everything redone, and sometimes you need to retake the quiz, and it's
and the
just
argument
like,
they make is like, oh well, cars aren't in the Constitution though. You don't have a constitutional right to drive a car. Like, bitch, I didn't have a constitutional right to vote when that thing was written. Okay, get out of here with that.
Well, they don't want you to do that either, so
yeah,
and those
that's
were
fair.
I don't know if either of you have ever like handled a like black powder musket, but they're very different from a modern gun too. And that's what was the gun back then. So the language really could stand a little bit of updating. But we need the boomers to die out first.
I always love when conservatives will bring up guns, and I always like to go, well, yes, our corset-wearing, high-heeled, makeup-loving, wig-donning founding fathers did in fact love guns.
No, I've
And
been
as you
saying
can
this.
see, fashion changes, so
I've been saying this. We
they
need to
hate
make
when I
guns
point that
gay.
out.
Like, if we make guns gay, they will run away from them. They'll be getting banned up and down. Like, we need to take it over. Just, like, go to pride parades and, like, hand out. That's probably a bad idea, but you get what I'm saying.
I have a theory that if we start instead with abortion rights, if we start calling fetuses illegal aliens,
They'll be on board.
they will be on board. The
Mhm.
illegal aliens, and the vagina is now the southern border. The illegal aliens attempting to cross the southern border to be granted citizenship in our country and will lead to your tax dollars. They will be for abortion.
Mhm.
We
If
got this,
anything,
guys.
whenever it costs them money,
Yeah.
So another pivot. How much enthusiasm do you see people of your generation looking to run for office?
I'd say it's really mixed. I think we're seeing more and more of it, but the threshold to run for office is really difficult. And again, like it ties back to cost of living. Like take out the fact that like you need time to go run for office. There's a lot of gatekeeping and breaking into these positions. Even like there are some city council organizations where it's like you have to be part of like a member board, and that's like a tiered service. Like you have to pay like a certain amount of money a month to be like part of this special group to be able to run, or you have to actually own your home in that community in order to run, so renters can't take part. So there is more enthusiasm, but I do think it's a lot more difficult, again, because just economic constraints.
Yeah, the entire system is really just so skewed. I mean, I read somewhere, and I didn't fact check it at the time to make sure it was true, so don't be saying if it's not true, I'm just spreading misinformation. I'm putting that disclaimer on it. But the founding fathers, when they created the criteria to be president, they wrote it in such a way they never dreamed someone who is not one of their descendants of the men in that room would ever be able to be president. Like, they did not see anyone who wasn't one of their offspring ever having the possibility of being president.
Well,
And
their
that was one of
offspring
those
in
where I
their
went, that
class, because
checks
it was all
out.
white
Yeah.
landowning men that could even have any
Yeah.
sort of political influence. So
I would like to see the money taken out of politics completely
yeah.
and shorten the election cycle. The episode of this show that's coming out tomorrow, I interviewed 2 Ohio State House representatives about stuff like that. And because I ran for office, and they are actually they're representatives that created a bill to help people not get disqualified the way that I was. But like when I ran, it is expensive, and if you don't know the right people, like I I didn't fucking jerk off the head of the Stark County Democratic Party, so he would not return my calls, and from what I understand, he was actively working to keep me off the ballot. And then the Secretary of State saying that candidates have to have their own legal teams and stuff like that to know all the rules. Who the fuck can afford that? There's so many barriers that we really need major election reform, and I think it's possible. I don't do to listen to Jon Stewart at all.
Yeah, a bit.
A little.
He has a weekly show now that he didn't. He interviewed some people that talked about America's two-party system and how it's just fucked and nothing can get done, and that how we need more parties, not too many, because if you have too many, then it also messy. But it's like 4 or 5 or 6, kind of a sweet spot. You expand the seats in the House to represent that, and with the goal of actually starting to get things done.
Like a parliamentary system.
Exactly.
Yeah. I would love, first thing, getting rid of the Electoral College and every vote counts equally.
Yep.
Second thing, tiered voting like Australia.
Explain.
Where in Australia, you have, I believe it's like you have 3 votes. So if you like, let's say you want to vote for Jill Stein. Jill Stein's your girl. Woo woo, Jill Stein. You can vote for Jill Stein, but Jill Stein's not going to win. So you don't feel like you're throwing your vote away because your second vote would be Kamala Harris.
Mm-hmm. Oh, like
Which, let me be clear.
ranked choice voting. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yes. Let me be clear. Kamala, not Jill Stein.
Yeah, because we don't have ranked choice voting. It's funny you bring up Australia though too, because their election system is so superior to ours. For one, voting is mandatory, and you have the time off to go do it. But like you'll pay a fine if you don't vote. Their election cycles. It's super condensed. Like it's illegal to campaign outside of the election cycles, and it's super short. I want to say like 3 weeks. I might be off on that. I have a friend from Australia that was telling me about this, but like you can only campaign in that time. And also the government has to educate voters about like who's on the ballot. Like they have to send out information and everything. So I mean, campaigns aren't dumping all this money into like, I mean, essentially, like, look at Biden before he dropped out and Trump. They were campaigning for like the last 2 years. So like half the presidential term is just campaigning. You're not even doing the job. And that's millions of dollars going away. But,
and it's most elected officials too.
Yeah. Well, I also wanted to point out, because you mentioned like your county Democratic club. But that's another area where like young people need to be getting involved. Like you don't have to run for office, but like you go to your local Dem club, 90% of the time it's like middle-aged white ladies, and that's it. Those aren't the only Democrats in your county. They're just the ones that are showing up. But like if you have time, and even if it's not all the time, but like some events, like you can take part in those county Dem clubs, and then when the election season comes around, you can have a voice and like, okay, who are we endorsing? So who are we going to be knocking doors for in this primary? There are a lot of avenues where I think just young people aren't getting involved. Like they're voting in a lot higher numbers, but like there's a lot more work to be done.
That's one of the only good things about Facebook left, is that it's easy to create groups to organize that kind of stuff, but otherwise it's a clusterfuck. My brain just died. My brain dies a lot. This is my third episode I've recorded this week, so
oh wow.
Which is, I mean, they release weekly, but my brain is, fried. Another thing that we're seeing a lot in this country is stupid fucking Republican push to purge the voter rolls. It's happening in every state. And I think one of the most important things that we all need to do right now is remind everybody we know to check their voter registration. Because like in Florida, what was it, like 800,000 were purged or something crazy like that? And that's a lot of people. And they're probably focusing on purging the Democrats more than they are the any Republicans off of there. So, like, because if you're purged, you show up to vote, you think you're registered, you can't. And I really like the idea of mandatory voting. That would also completely fuck all this trying to stop people from voting from happening.
Oh, yeah.
So, and the Republicans would never win again.
No, they wouldn't.
This is one of the other things of voting in general. Like when you try to explain to white suburban conservatives or even white suburban liberals about what is happening in the Black areas or any ethnic area or even a much more liberal area than the white suburbs, that it isn't a 2-minute line at the high school like it is at your voting area. Like where I live currently, it's a very in and out experience. It's super fast, super easy. And when my family lived in a much nicer gated community, there was a polling place in the community, like a place to vote was at the clubhouse, at the clubhouse in the gated community. And it was so fast and easy to vote. And they make it so fast and easy for white suburbia to vote. So when you try to explain to them, they made it incredibly difficult. They just don't believe you. because why would they make somebody stand in the line for 20 hours when we quite literally in and out 2 minutes, boom.
And it
Also,
is
Texas redrawing, I saw them the gerrymandered map now because people moving in from other states, which number one, Texas, when they brag about creating all these jobs, no, you relocated all these jobs from people in California, and the company moved all their workers from California to Texas, which in fact created no new jobs for the actual state. But we digress. But most of those people who moved are more left-leaning. And so to combat that, they were redrawing a map. And one of the maps, like, I kid you not, it was a giant red blob. And they cut up the blue parts into 4 different groups. That in this blue area used to be one district. And they cut it up into different parts. And one red place had to stretch, like, I think it was 20 miles without touching anything to do a little circle and go back.
That's
It
how
was
it
like,
is in Ohio
what?
too. My district, when I was running, had individual houses cut out. Like it
Yeah.
was seriously like this, and like it would go just like what you said. It would go along a highway, and then clip out a house, and it's so right in Ohio in November. There's a citizen-led ballot initiative to put districts back into the hands of the people, and the Republicans are losing their fucking mind. So anyone that hasn't listened to last week's episode with the state reps, listen to that one so you can kind of get an idea. Or if you're really bored, look up on the Ohio Secretary of State's website the Ohio House of Representatives district maps, and it's mind-boggling the fucking crazy ass Tetris that they pull out with it. So, because Ohio's really, if Ohio's not a blue state, it's a purple state, but you would never know by our government. So,
well, Nick Powers, I don't know if you guys are familiar with Nick Powers. He's like the stats guy. He's got all the spreadsheets.
Sounds familiar.
He's been doing a really great series kind of breaking down, like, because it's easy to get kind of complacent when you live in an area that's very gerrymandered or like a solid red state and be like, oh, well, my vote's not going to do anything. It's very red here. But that's counterintuitive because then you're more likely to stay home. And you look at certain elections like Florida, it's like, if only like a few thousand more people had showed up, like DeSantis did not win by a large margin. So I think it's important too. It's like, yeah, we need to fight the corruption, but also that doesn't mean your vote doesn't matter. You know, like you can still get out there even if you're in like a totally red desert. You know, get your friends and family to come with you. Like make sure you're like bringing people out to the polls. I mean, like look at Georgia. That flipped in 2020. That was insane.
And when you go to the polls, you can't wear political clothes, but you can wear a shirt that says, I read banned books or something like that, and that makes them so mad. It's one of my favorite things is when the first time I voted for, which was, I believe, for Biden, I wore a black shirt with a lace doily collar just because Ruth Bader Ginsburg had just died, and it was like, yeah, I'm doing that. I'm doing that.
It's a little, like I piss people off just by showing up because 6 foot tall trans girl in Red, Ohio, walking into a church because that's where the only place you can vote around here is always in fucking churches, which I hate. And so like. And I fucking get mean. Like a couple years ago, they kept misgendering me over and over and over again. And I just fucking laid in. Like, you guys are just being fucking rude. This is stupid. And so they're like, but now I'm trying to do mail-in voting.
See, I like mail-in voting just because then I can sit there with my ballot and actually like look up, especially like the really small niche offices. I could take a ton of time and not feel like I'm like holding a voting booth too long. For some reason, it feels wrong to have my phone out in a voting booth. It's legal, but I feel like I'm like cheating on a test, like I'm breaking a rule.
Wait, it is? They won't let you have your phone. They won't let me do that here.
Really?
Okay,
I have
maybe
to write
it's
out
state
the
by
information
state
on a paper. Yeah.
Okay.
Because like, at least in my area, they are very clear. No, your phone must be turned off
Oh,
when you go
interesting.
into that area. And yeah, but I write it down on a piece of paper of like, this is who I like, this is who I don't like. And if it's something like a judge and it's like, oh crap, I didn't look that information up, I don't vote because I don't want to do any harm in that.
Yeah.
But most of the time I have every single thing, every single initiative, every single thing picked and ready and voting on it.
Yeah, and like your Secretary of State's websites for pretty much every state, I would imagine. Once you get close enough to election time, you can see your ballot, so that you can do your research ahead of time as well. So you can do what Landon did and write it down. And follow up on another thing where, like, when people like think that their vote won't matter in like red counties and stuff like that. In Ohio, I don't know if you two have heard of a guy named Gary Click. I swear he's a sexual predator. He's a Ohio State House representative pastor who is absolutely obsessed with trans kids. And he's the one that got trans healthcare banned for kids in the state, and sports bans and working in bathroom bans.
Was he one of the ones caught on a podcast recently where they were talking about how they want to? Yeah, I know who you're talking about.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But like, if you look at how his elections, he only won by like 3,000 votes. So in an entire district where the main thing, people just, it's hard to say this, especially for me, because it's kind of hypocritical, because I went 40 years without voting. But now I understand how important it is. But I only really started understanding that when I came out and all this shit started like affecting me personally. And that's the hard part, is showing people how it does affect them personally. But if they get out there, they can make a difference. And it's probably the most important thing I have to say in this episode is, one, make sure you haven't been purged. And two, just go do it. And it's easy. It doesn't take long. And you could make a difference. So anything else you two want to get into before I break out Cards Against Humanity?
Oh, we have Cards Against Humanity. Yeah. Yes. Nothing?
Okay. So then we're going to do Cards Against Humanity.
I'm also brain fried. I thought it was Friday for like half the day, and then I got really upset that I got one more day of work left.
Wait till you hit your 40s, because then you're brain fried all the time, but then time goes by super fast and you never know what day it is, and all of a sudden it's like 2 weeks later and you're like, what happened? I don't get it. I really don't. So,
I feel like that's starting to already happen to me. It's catching up.
Well, you're what, 29? So
yeah,
or right around there. So yeah, 30 is when it first hits. And, though honestly, I felt oldest when I was 29. Like hands down oldest. And now in my 40s, I feel younger than I did when I was in my 30s. But I'm also on hormone replacement therapy, which took like 5-10 years off my parents, so that could be part of it.
I mean, I feel quite ancient, so.
You are an old soul.
I am.
You really are.
I am.
Like.
Also, it doesn't help that I know almost nothing about modern pop culture. All of my pop culture references are basically end at 1975 and start at like 1933.
You're so stereotypical gay.
I am.
Which
Let's
is amazing.
talk about Auntie Mame.
Yeah, exactly. No, I tell people about you all the time, actually, Landon. Like, I like to point people towards the episode I had you on there, because that's one reason I wanted to have you both here, is I feel you two have a lot in common in that you're two of some of the most brilliant people I've ever come across. And I want more people to hear what you have to say, because your insights into life are fucking, again, old soul kind of shit. And like, you were so much more in tune with the world than people were when I was growing up. And at that age, you know, in my 20s, I was just trying to fuck anything that moved. And testosterone will do that, but luckily I don't have that anymore.
I'm also
yeah,
just trying to fuck anything that moves, but while shitposting online. So that's really the only difference.
Yes. Now, if you can multitask and do it at the same time.
There we go. That's an OnlyFans. There we go.
Exactly. I tried OnlyFans, but post-op trans girls, no one wants to see it. So we're just as boring as a cis girl, apparently. So
wow.
You have to have a dick. So I gave up on it. But after I ran for office, some right-wing news organization, like far, far right, dug up my deleted posts on Reddit because I advertised on Reddit. And so my pussy was there for everyone to see on the internet for a while. So that's fun. But anyways, so Cards Against Humanity, this is like the old text. So I need to get something more up to date because all this stuff tends to be kind of irrelevant. But so how it works, we each get a card, and I only have the black card, so white ones are over there somewhere, but that's no fun because you can't see them.
We need to keep the cards segregated, separate but equal.
Exactly, separate but equal. Oh, feels like Ohio and trans people. I swear history just repeats itself over and over and over again.
Oh, 100%.
So,
don't get me started on the unholy alliance the Southern Baptist Church made with the Republican Party in the 70s after they lost their Supreme Court lawsuit about having to desegregate their private Christian schools or pay taxes. That's when they started to care about abortion. They didn't care. Yeah. And there are like letters between the Southern Baptist Church and the Republicans, like basically doing hey, we've been teaching our people to not think critically for decades. Like, do you know how valuable they'll be? And they went, we need something to get them off of the fact that we lost this case so badly. Let's go with abortion because everyone hates women. We can focus on this. And they went, and we cannot tell them how to vote from the pulpit, but we can talk about abortion being evil. And all you need to do is say the magic words of abortion is bad. And they'll vote for you.
And the sheep will follow.
And that is what created Christian nationalism, was them not wanting to have to pay taxes. Which also goes to prove, because they were arguing this whole thing of it's God's will that the races be segregated and the little white children not be in contact with the black children. Like, funny how that went out the window when they said, you can continue to have your little racist schools. You just have to pay taxes on them.
I swear, every bullshit thing in this country boils down to two things: racism and money. Racism and money. It's as simple as that, and as stupid as it is. And I just, like, I've had racism just baked into me intrinsically my entire life. Like, I grew up in a super racist family, and as white people, we all are guilty of it on different levels, and it's a constant unlearning process. But when you step back and think about racism, just how fucking stupid it is.
So stupid.
It is so stupid. It's a different color of skin. And honestly, I think it might have started because white people were upset that black people were better looking than them. So it could be as stupidly simple as that. But I buy
that. When I was a little girl, I was so jealous of like the black girls in my class that had like all the beads, or like they'd come in like with crazy like poofy like they just do such amazing things with their hair that I'm like, this is never gonna do. And I was so jealous. I remember coming home to my mom and be like, Mom, I want black girl hair. And she's like, you can't just say that. You can't just don't. I'm like, but I do. Yeah, so I buy that theory. Black people are hotter than us, and we were jealous rat bags about it.
We are. It's just, it's so stupid. Okay, Cards Against Humanity. So I'm going to pull a card for each of us just at random. Hopefully. Like, I keep on winding up pulling ones that I pulled recently. So we have Landon's card.
That's always how it goes.
I know. And we have Alex's card. And we have Vanessa's card. So, meeny, miny, moe, that never works. Fuck it, I'm going first this time. So, okay. So what you do is I show you the card, and then you come up with the white card part of it. And for some reason, like I can't really read it when I hold it. I don't know if you two can read it, so I'm just going to read it
I
out to you.
can.
Yeah, read it out because it's blurry.
So, okay. Well, if you'll excuse me, gentlemen, I have a date with. Ooh, that's actually
a good one for that.
Do it. Throw it out.
This groovy new thing called LSD.
God damn it.
I think that's an actual white card, though.
It probably is, and the one that came to my mind is probably a white card too, but my vibrator, because that poor thing, I keep wearing out its batteries. So
my first thought was just
Who's
Taco
next?
Bell, but that's because I'm getting hungry
Ooh.
and I keep
Oh,
thinking
yeah,
about
me
getting
too.
like a cheesy gordita crunch.
I was just thinking about Mexican food too.
Have you seen? Well, I wouldn't call Taco Bell Mexican food.
Yeah,
Have
no.
you seen the cat that plays Cards Against Humanity on TikTok?
No.
Legend.
Oh, it's hilarious.
I
Yeah.
need to look that up.
Yeah. He's kind of an evil cat. He loves genocide.
I mean,
which is a great drag name.
So he's a Republican? Genocide. Okay, who's next? Alex or Landon?
Okay, I'll go, but I feel like you're gonna have to read it because I can't read it from your screen.
I am gonna read it.
Okay.
This is a long one. Okay, let's see. It's so fucking hard to do this on camera. After 4 platinum albums and 3 Grammys, it's time to get back to my roots, to what inspired me to make music in the first place.
Cuckolding.
Fuck yeah.
Just first
I wanna
thought.
hear that. I don't think I can beat that. I really don't.
Sometimes I just don't have a filter.
No, I love that. That's like that's one reason you're here. Because
an
it's important.
animator on Bluey got fired because in the parents' bedroom he put the chair that just faces the bed weirdly. And people saw it, and half of the internet was going like no, and the other half was going yes, and they were like going, it's Bluey, stop being pervs, it's just a chair. And then the animator was like, oh, I did it, and it was bloody hilarious, like la la la, and like, and they were like, you're fired, like how dare you sully Bluey.
Oh yeah, there's some things that should be sacred, but it's still pretty funny. I can't get my kid to watch Bluey. So, I mean, unfortunately, I don't live with him anymore. Maybe he's starting to watch it now that I'm not there anymore. But, like, I had to, like, force him to watch it, you know?
Curious George, that is one of the best TV shows ever.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Like, there's a new one or an old one?
It started in, like, 2006, and it has, like, 15 seasons. It's so good. It's so good. I highly recommend it.
Okay, June Rogers is over here plugging Curious George. So, okay, this is a good one. Landon, how am I maintaining my relationship status? Meaning you. How are you maintaining your relationship status?
With a Ouija board.
That's a really good idea. Shit.
Damn, that is good.
Yeah.
All right, so who are you communing with via the Ouija board to maintain your relationship?
Well, my family from my past life.
They're giving you some spiritual guidance.
And they're telling me where to get the good barbiturates.
Barbiturates. You really are. The 20s to the 70s, aren't you? It's pretty glorious. It's pretty glorious. So, okay, wrapping up, where can people find you if they're not already connected to you?
Well, I am on Instagram and TikTok. If you search Cazelmon or CA Salmon, you'll find me and all my ship posting. Yay!
I am on Instagram, TikTok, Threads, and YouTube. I just hit 10,000 on YouTube the other day. I am
Good job.
like, yeah, so now
Oh.
I officially have over 10,000 followers on every platform I'm on, which I'm
Nice.
very proud of. And it's &_mayhem_ensued. And or you can just look up Landon Reid. That's
hmm
most likely faster.
But and Mayhem Ensued is so much more fun.
I was
You know,
It
not
is.
planning on it going on becoming any kind of influencer at all. So I was just like, that's a funny name. Stupid 19-year-old me.
honestly, I'm
That's
glad
what
you
my-
did though, because it's fitting.
That's what happened with my name. It was like there was like a dumb thing to like figure out your Digimon name out of letters from your name, and then it just became my screen name on everything. And now people are like, California Salmon? And I'm like, close enough. All right, fine.
Yeah, I was kind of wondering where yours came from. So, like, I mean,
Now you
but
know.
again, yeah, because you two grew
Shooting
up
star.
on social media, so you're able to, you know, it's closer.
I oddly didn't. Okay,
Really?
here's the interesting thing. I was homeschooled. Explains so much. All of
Mhm.
your burning questions were just answered.
Mm-hmm.
I was homeschooled, and we didn't have, my father didn't allow us to have the internet until I was 11, and I didn't have
Wow.
my first cell phone until I was 16.
See, my
So
dad was
that
super
was
into
like,
online
yeah.
gaming, so we had a computer in my house, but it was mostly for like Neopets and stuff. And then social media came.
Neopets.
I had a MySpace for like a minute.
I had a MySpace. I was one of the first. I was early on Facebook, but yeah, it all seems so foreign now. Anyways, thank you two so much for joining me this week. And
Thanks for inviting me. This was fun.
Yes, yes. Next week will be River, Rowan, and I talking about. It's actually a trans episode for a change. We're talking about like seeing our past selves and the fact that I came across an old dick pic of mine and it blew my fucking mind. So tune into that one next week. Anyways, Alex, Landon, thank you so much for joining me on this show. And people follow them. You will love their content. You really will. This is a carefully curated episode of this pod. So until
No one's
next time.
ever said that about me ever in my life until now.
Well, now you're there. So all right, toodles.
Mwah.